Okay, we're after the slideshow next. Let me just show you something here inside the browser quickly. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be inserting a static image here into the slideshow container. I know I've been referring to this as a slideshow all the way along, but unfortunately we just don't have enough time to create an actual self-running slideshow. But the good news is there are tons and tons of free scripts available online. You could jump into Google and do a quick search for something like JavaScript, slideshow, or just type in free slideshow. There's lots of auto generators and things like this. So for our purposes, we're just going to be inserting a static image here. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to extract the slideshow graphic from the Photoshop layout. Okay. Just like we did with the logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to Photoshop. Now, the way that we left things here inside Photoshop, I still have the marching ants for the logo selection, and of course, all of the other layers other than the logo have been disabled in terms of their visibility. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's get rid of the marching ants by hitting Controller-Command-D on the keyboard to deselect. And then what I'll do is I'll hold down Option here on the Mac or Alt on the Windows side. And one more time, I'll click on the visibility icon, the eyeball icon there for logo, and that'll bring everything back to life. So as a quick aside, holding down Alt or Option and clicking on a layer's visibility is a way to isolate that layer and temporarily enable or disable the visibility of all the other layers inside the Photoshop layout. Pretty cool, okay? All right, now let's go after the logo, this fella here. So I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see the entire slideshow. And let's see, I'm just going to collapse down my header layer group. I'm going to twist open the slideshow layer group. Remember, we had set this guy up using a clipping mask. So here's what I'm going to do. This is another way to go about pulling this sort of thing off. I'm going to hold down Controller-Command, and I'm going to click on the clipping group layers thumbnail, this guy right here. So the cookie cutter's thumbnail, if you will. Go ahead and click that. And that will load that layer as a selection, as marching ants. Perfect. All right, now once again, what I'm going to do, I don't need to disable any layers, visibility, or anything like that, because I have my selection here pretty tightly. I had to do that previously for the logo because I had some other objects in the way there, the main navigation menu and the blue background from the header and so on. But in any regard, here we're ready to roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to the edit menu and then back down to this copy merged command, which comes in really handy. And then once again, I'm going to go and create a brand new document. I'm just going to hit Controller-Command-N on my keyboard. And once again, Photoshop knows the dimensions for us, which is great. 840 by, now it's giving me 301 here. So I'm going to fix that in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and then I'll paste Controller-Command-V. All right. Okay, there we go. So there's the slideshow. Now, it had given me an extra pixel in height for some unknown reason. If I zoom in just a little bit, I can see that extra pixel of space way down at the bottom of the layout, which is kind of weird, kind of bizarre. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fix this just by trimming a pixel off the bottom of this image. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to head to my image menu and then down to canvas size. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shave a pixel off of the bottom. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set my anchor orientation, okay, either to the top left, top center, top right, doesn't really matter. And I'm simply just going to change my height from 301 to 300, because you and I both know that it's supposed to be 300, right? So I'm not sure why we're getting that extra pixel. Go ahead and click on OK. Now Photoshop is going to say, oh, hold on, your new canvas size is going to be smaller. Go ahead and click on Proceed, and that'll crop that extra pixel off the bottom, which is great. Okay, now let's go and save this guy up. I'm going to use my Save for Web dialog box one more time. So File and then down to Save for Web. Okay, you can choose the file format that you want to save this guy as. You could go JPEG in this case. That would be perfectly fine. Or maybe myself, I'll stick with my PNG 24. It's entirely up to you. And again, this really isn't a workshop on optimizing graphics for the web, but probably what I would wind up doing is going with a JPEG just to get some smaller file size. Let me give you a very, very quick comparison here. If I go PNG 24, The quality here looks just fine inside this little preview window. Make sure you're on the Optimize tab, by the way. Looks pretty good in there, doesn't it? But if I look way down towards the bottom left corner, check out the file size, almost 500K. And you might go, 500K, that's nothing. Yeah, sure, it's nothing, but we could get it even smaller. Check this out. I'm going to switch out to JPEG, and now the preview still looks just as good, but the file size is way down to about 50K, just a little bit higher than 50K. So we've really shaved a ton of file size off of this guy, which is great. Now you might think, well, that's not really that big a deal. Well, what if you had 5 or 10 images on each page on your website, and you were able to save that much file size on each of your images? Suddenly, your website still looks great, all the images still look great, and it loads 2 or 3 times faster, maybe even 5 times faster, right? So anyway, you'll have to experiment with your different file formats. Really, it's all about the balance between quality and file size. We want good-looking images that are as small as possible, okay? So I'm going to go with JPEG for this guy, and I'll go ahead and click on Save. And I'm going to call this slideshow.jpg, saving them, of course, into my work files folder. Okay, go ahead and click on Save, and there we go. We're ready now to go and insert this guy into our HTML. You can close out of the file here inside Photoshop. We don't need to save them. Now it's all about, of course, the HTML and the CSS to control the slideshow.